Taylor Old here, and welcome to the Sovereign Submission podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about a really important concept, which is integrity. So, this year of 2026 is my year of curious embodied integrity. And I got to be honest, first month in January, well, it really just kicked my keister to the curb. It was, yeah, it was really interesting. It was a really interesting month. I think that, because it's like curious embodied integrity. Well, here, if you want to explore what curious embodied integrity is, here's the areas that aren't necessarily an integrity in your life. Let's go explore them together. And I did. And the other day, I was at a shadow work facilitation workshop, and a guy was wearing a sweater, and on the back of it was this statement: integrity is essential to success. I've really been sitting with that lately. Like, oh, integrity is essential for success. Like, what does that mean? I'm going to take the word success out of the equation, because there's so much performance around that word success when it comes to being a man. And I think, like, what I really want to get to is integrity is essential, right? Integrity is essential. As a sovereign man and also as a submissive man, this is something that has really been landing with me. What does it mean to really be in integrity? Fundamentally, what I'm finding for myself is that it is about trust, self trust. Do I trust myself enough? Do I have a sense of trust toward myself? Before I continue on, I want to welcome Sheena and Jason. Thank you for being here. If you have any comments or questions at any time, feel free to drop those in. Trust. Right? Often when we think about trust, we think of trust as something that we give to other people. Like, I trust you. I trust you to honor your word, or I trust you to go to the store and pick up the carton of milk because you said you would, or I trust you. And of course, trust is really less about words and more about actions, because the actions are going to be what really establishes trust. I can tell you until I'm blue in the face that I'm going to go pick up that carton of milk, but until I go out the door and go down to the grocery store and pick up the carton of milk and come back, you don't really know if I'm going to do it. Once I've done that, a little iota of trust has been built up. He went and got the carton of milk. And if I continually do things that I say I'm going to do, there's trust. But I think a lot of times what we miss out on when it comes to trust is that we miss out on the importance of trusting ourselves. And this is something that really came home to roost for me in the last few days. I was doing a journaling exercise. My mistress had asked me, she's like, I want you to journal about some stuff around our relationship. Because she saw certain patterns. She was calling me in. And one of the things I ended up journaling was that I trust myself 60 to 70% of the time. Oof. Now, let me be honest here and just say that at one time, I trusted myself maybe 20% of the time. So 60 to 70 is a long way. And I've built that up over the last few years. I've built a lot. I've built that up by learning to care about myself, to love myself, respect myself, to trust myself. I have a mirror exercise that I do every day where I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I love you. I like you. I care about you. I trust you. I respect you. And that mirror exercise is helpful. But what's even more helpful is like saying, okay, so why is it that I only trust myself 60 to 70%? And saying this, and I'm saying this like with some kindness toward myself, because like, okay, like clearly there's something going on here. And the answer I have to that is I trust myself 60 to 70% of the time because I still need to learn how to step into my sovereignty. And part of that means trusting myself enough to, for example, hold boundaries with myself, trusting myself enough to respect myself, things like that. Recently on my phone, I put on an app and it's called Days Without. And one of the things that I put on there was days without porn because I thought to myself, like, this is a good reminder for me. And I am currently at this point in time at 12 days, 23 hours, and 36 minutes. Yay me. Almost 2 weeks. I look at this every day now because it's a way for me, it's accountability for me. It's building up. But really it's also building up that trust around myself, around establishing a better boundary. Because I've seen like if I'm not trusting myself around something, like if I've said like, "Oh, I'm not gonna look at porn," but then I go and I look at porn, what am I really doing? I'm creating this way out. But then afterwards, I'm living with the shame and the guilt of it. And that shame and guilt eats away at my capacity to be a sovereign man. So I've started looking at this every day. At some point in the day, I'll just look and I'll be like, "Yep, there you go." And it's interesting because I found that just by doing that, it has reinforced the boundary because it's like, yes, this is my choice. This is the way that I'm going to live my life. That I'm not going to look at something that ultimately takes away from myself and as a result takes away from the dynamic and from my ability to fully show up in presence with her. It was just a decision that I made for myself, almost 2 weeks ago now. Because it was just like, this is an area where I'm struggling. And I know why I'm struggling. And I need to give myself a sense of trust around this, of a sense of stepping into integrity. And I've been looking at this in other areas of my life. Now, one of the other things that my mistress shared with me, I think was just as important is she's like, try be in the now. Because it's really easy to get caught up in our past mistakes and beat ourselves up. I am a champion at beating myself up. Let me tell you. Like I've got a black belt in beating myself up. That's how good I am at it. And I really don't want to be a black belt at beating myself up. I don't think any man does. And I can safely say that most men that I know, if not all of them, are pretty damn good at it. We put so much pressure on ourselves, and this is where that integrity is essential to success comes into our play. We put so much pressure on ourselves to be successful, whatever success is. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, you're making 100K a year, or you're driving the fancy car, or you've got the hot model wife, or any of those other things. I'm talking about even just the little areas of success and the pressure that we put on ourselves to be successful, whatever that means. And I think like one of the most important things that we can do is really say, well, whatever success might be, let's really explore how we can be successful without beating ourselves up in the process if in fact we don't quote unquote hit the metrics, the KPI on whatever success is. So if integrity is essential for success, then what does it mean to be in integrity? What I keep coming back to is it's trust. If I'm going to submit to someone else, I damn well better trust myself first. Because if I don't trust myself, then I'm going to struggle against that submission at some point or another. I'm going to resist it. I'm going to and why? Because I don't trust her. Not because I don't want to trust her, not because she's done anything wrong. She hasn't done anything wrong at all. because I fundamentally don't trust myself. So my challenge for myself now, like January kind of laid out the battleground. It's like, here it all is, dude. Here's all the areas. And my challenge for myself now for the rest of this year is like, okay, let's get curious about like how I can hold better boundaries with myself, how I can hold better boundaries with other people. How can I establish a sense of trust in myself by being in the now and also being in integrity? And I have no doubt that this is going to change throughout the year. I mean, I'm saying this now, like maybe February is my self trust month and then March is something else. Like I have no idea. But what I do know is that the more I show up with that kind of awareness around like where I am out of account with myself and where I'm out of account with other people, the better able I am to explore what that means when I look at that phrase is integrity is essential to success. But without putting it on like as an overly harsh standard on myself, which I think I was doing in January. I was kind of like, well, it's curious embodied integrity. I've got to get into integrity. Okay. Yeah, let's put a lot of pressure on ourselves and punish ourselves. That's certainly not going to build the self-trust. That's one of the reasons why I didn't feel a sense like I couldn't say that I felt that I trusted myself even like 90% or 80%, which would have been better answers, but it just legitimately wasn't there. I could trust myself between 60 to 70%. Well, pretty good. It's still a passing grade. But but the thing is like it's like, well, all right. If that's where I'm at with this, one, I might be being too hard on myself. But secondly, I'm allowed to have a sense of exploring like, well, what does it mean to be embodied in integrity? Maybe I should just get curious about maybe I can get curious about it. Not should. I'm gonna remove should from the equation. We should on ourselves all the time. I certainly do. I could get curious about what that means. And that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm getting really curious about this concept of integrity in my life. And how does that show up? What does it mean to be embodied in integrity? And, you know, part of what I think it's interesting in one of the men's support groups that I'm part of, one of the themes that we're exploring right now is boundaries for the month of February. Seems like an appropriate way to explore some of this. Like, what am I doing to establish better boundaries? What can I do to be better toward myself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I share all that with you because I think it's really important to look at it within our own lives. Like, where am I out of integrity with myself? A lot of times where we're out of integrity is with ourselves. It's not so much with other people, or rather, it extends out to other people because it starts first within ourselves. Getting into integrity is about getting into integrity with ourselves. So for me, one of the ways that I chose to get into integrity is I put an app on my phone that I look at each day that says, "Hey, you're this many days without." Because that's a little act of integrity every day that I look at that I'm like, "Oh, that builds trust. That builds a little bit of trust in myself. I did this. I did this. I did this. I can do it." And I'm not at the same time like relying on willpower alone. And I've shared this struggle with like other men. I've shared it with my mistress. But putting a little app there was like sharing it with myself and saying, "Hey, guess what? I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to bring you in. The most important person in this equation is me. And if I'm not bringing myself in, I can tell everyone else what's going on, my struggles and all that, and they'll help. They'll offer advice, but they can't save me. They can't do it for myself. I've got to do that." And that's one of the reasons I did it, to create that sense of accountability. It's kind of the same thing that I bring to other men. And it may seem odd, like I'm talking about this right now, like, okay, Here you are, you're a men's coach and you're struggling with, what you're struggling with being in integrity. You're struggling with porn a bit right now. You're da da da. Yeah, you know what? I'm a human being. I'm a person who is intimately aware of like where I struggle, and I think that like I just got out of this shadow work weekend, and it was kind of interesting to be like, yeah, I can spot where I still see some shadows in my life. But instead of beating myself up about it and being like, you must be perfect, I'm not perfect. I will never be perfect, and that's okay. What I can do is work on being in integrity. And in being in integrity doesn't mean that I'll never hurt anyone. Doesn't mean that I'll never do something that might, cause some harm or things like that. But being integrity means that I can say, okay, well, based on what I knew at the time and what was going on and everything else, I was in alignment and in congruence with myself. And as a result, I did the best I could to be in alignment and congruence with you. There's an interesting thing too, where we sometimes in the men's world work, we talk about integrity and accountability. And one of the things that we end up talking about is how integrity and accountability are not the same thing. Accountability is like, hey, I'm accountable to these other people. I made an agreement with them and I'm accountable to them. But integrity is like, hey, I'm honoring myself. I'm honoring what's going on. And maybe like I was supposed to go to this one meeting, but I ended up choosing not to because there was something going on in my life, like a family member had an emergency or something. Well, I'm in integrity with myself because I took care of that family member, but I'm out of account with those people. And that's okay. We can talk about that. We can repair, we can figure things out. But what we can't do is pretend that we're going to live a life without being able to trust ourselves because the lack of trust will in the end kill you. And I think that is one of the challenges that so many men face is that fundamentally we've learned not to trust ourselves. We've learned to keep everything to ourselves. We've learned to push everything down. And as a result, we don't trust ourselves a lot of the times. I mean, I see this with so many men, and I've been that man for so much of my life. I'm slowly but surely, steadily becoming a different man. And I like that man a lot better because that man shares what's going on. He's transparent. He's not vulnerable. He's transparent. There's a very real difference there. He's transparent about what's going on in his life. He's transparent with the people that matter. And he's learning how to trust himself. And it's a process. So thank you for watching, those of you who are live. And if you need help with this, reach out to me. You can get my free guide. I'll have it below, but I have a guide for submissive men who the sovereign submission relationship guide. And if you want to explore kind of like 5 different ways that you can show up better in your relationship, um, that has some tools for you. And I will see you around on the interwebs. Take care.